It's probably going to be exactly like me and my brothers, who are still, to this day, super competitive. We went go-karting together over the summer, and it wasn't even the competitiveness over the racing, it was over the name.
Hollywood is full of glamour, drama, and larger-than-life personalities, but what if some of your favorite stars shared more than just screen time? Behind the flashing lights and blockbuster roles, there are family ties that most people never notice.
I don't know if it's nicknames, it's just the general demeanor that he will always have around me. No matter how old I get, I'll always be the baby brother.
Yes, some of the biggest names in Hollywood are actually brothers, and once you see the connections, you won't be able to unsee them. Get ready. These sibling surprises will make you rethink the red carpet. Ben Affleck and Casey Affleck. When you think of Ben Affleck, your mind probably jumps straight to blockbusters. Batman brooding over Gotham, or the mastermind behind Argo. He's got that classic movie star aura, handsome, polished, and forever on the Hollywood A-list. But here's what most people don't realize. His younger brother, Casey Affleck, has been quietly racking up some of the industry's most respected performances. Casey isn't the headline Affleck, but he's the one critics adore. He snagged an Academy Award for Manchester by the Sea, a role so raw and emotional it left audiences gutted. While Ben was charming his way through rom-coms or helming big-budget thrillers, Casey carved out a niche as the understated, moody indie actor. It's like Ben is the rock star, and Casey is the guy playing haunting acoustic sets in the corner of a dimly lit bar. What makes this duo fascinating is how opposite their careers feel. Ben dipped in and out of the tabloid spotlight with high-profile romances and blockbuster hits, while Casey stayed low-key, popping up in films that pack emotional punches but rarely dominate box offices. Still, both share that unmistakable Boston edge, sharp, confident, and just a little broody. Next time you watch Ben save the world or Casey break your heart on screen, remember, Hollywood didn't just get one Affleck, it got two. Chris Hemsworth and Liam Hemsworth. If Hollywood had a Most Photogenic Family award, the Hemsworths would take it home every year. Chris Hemsworth, of course, is the man who made Thor's hammer a household name. With his booming laugh, godlike physique, and surprisingly sharp comedic timing, he became Marvel royalty and one of the world's most bankable action stars. But here's where things get fun. Chris isn't the only Hemsworth who made it big. His younger brother, Liam Hemsworth, stepped into the spotlight as Gale in the Hunger Games franchise. For years, fans debated Team Gale versus Team Peeta, and Liam's brooding good looks made him a heartthrob in his own right. Add in his high-profile romance with Miley Cyrus, and suddenly he was splashed across every tabloid cover. What makes this sibling pairing so fascinating is how they've both leaned into completely different vibes. Chris thrives on big, bold blockbusters and larger-than-life characters, while Liam's career has often centered on romantic leads or serious, understated roles. Chris is the thunderclap, Liam is the smolder. And then, just when people thought they knew the family dynamic, in comes Luke Hemsworth, the forgotten eldest brother, reminding everyone that Hollywood didn't stop at two Hemsworths. The Hemsworth brothers even poke fun at their shared fame. Chris has joked in interviews about Liam borrowing his clothes, while Liam has admitted he sometimes gets introduced as Thor's brother. Still, together they've managed something rare, carving out their own space without being overshadowed. One rules Asgard, the other fought alongside Katniss, and the family's Hollywood legacy is just warming up. From Marvel gods and dystopian rebels, let's shift gears to two brothers whose quirky charm and unmistakable voices made them Hollywood's favorite offbeat duo, Luke Wilson and Owen Wilson. Now, here's a pair you might have clocked before, but most people never stop to connect the dots. Owen Wilson is instantly recognizable. The slightly nasal drawl, the signature "wow," and a career built on lovable oddballs in films like Wedding Crashers, Zoolander, and every Wes Anderson movie under the sun. He's the kind of actor who can make you laugh without even trying, just by raising an eyebrow or delivering a line in his laid-back surfer dude cadence. Then there's Luke Wilson, his younger brother, who often flies under the radar but has quietly stacked up an impressive filmography of his own. You've seen him in Legally Blonde as Reese Witherspoon's supportive love interest, or in Old School as the reluctant frat boy pulled back into chaos. Unlike Owen, who leans hard into quirky comedy, Luke's screen presence is more grounded, dependable, the straight man that lets the zaniness of others shine brighter. What makes their sibling connection fun is how their careers mirror and diverge at the same time. They've both worked with Wes Anderson, both thrived in early 2000s comedies, and both have that Texas-born all-American charm. But while Owen became a household name with his voice alone, Luke is the guy you recognize mid-movie and go, "Oh yeah, I love that guy." Together, the Wilson brothers prove that Hollywood isn't just about blockbuster flash. It's also about subtle consistency. One gives us the wow, the other gives us the heart. And between them, they've carved out a perfectly balanced Hollywood legacy. Mark Wahlberg and Donnie Wahlberg. If you grew up in the 90s, chances are you knew at least one Wahlberg before Hollywood fully caught on. Mark Wahlberg first stormed into pop culture as Marky Mark, flashing abs in Calvin Klein ads and dropping hip-hop hits with the Funky Bunch. Then, in one of the most successful pivots in entertainment history, he traded the mic for movie scripts, becoming a bona fide A-lister in films like Boogie Nights, The Departed, and Transformers. But here's what casual fans sometimes forget. Mark isn't the only Wahlberg who made it. Donnie Wahlberg, his older brother, was already famous years before Mark ever showed up on the big screen. As a member of New Kids on the Block, Donnie was part of one of the biggest boy bands in the world, selling out stadiums and fueling teenage crushes everywhere. When the band's heyday slowed, he seamlessly reinvented himself as an actor. These days, he's best known for playing Detective Danny Reagan on the long-running TV series Blue Bloods, a role that's earned him a loyal following in living rooms across America. What makes this sibling duo especially fun is their different energy. Mark built his career on gritty dramas and action-heavy blockbusters, while Donnie found a second wind on television, playing a sharp-tongued cop with heart. Both, though, have that tough Boston edge, straightforward, no nonsense, and maybe just a little mischievous. Together, they're proof that the Wahlberg family didn't just give Hollywood one star, it gave us two, each carving his own lane while never straying far from that unmistakable Boston swagger. Alec Baldwin and Stephen Baldwin. When people hear the name Baldwin, Alec usually comes to mind first. He's the powerhouse of the family, the leading man who's done everything from intense dramas like Glengarry Glen Ross to Emmy-winning comedy as Jack Donaghy on 30 Rock. With that booming voice and commanding presence, Alec carved out a reputation as one of Hollywood's most versatile and recognizable actors. But Alec isn't alone in the spotlight. His younger brother, Stephen Baldwin, has been in the business just as long, though often in a very different lane. Stephen made his mark in cult classics like The Usual Suspects, where his performance helped define one of cinema's greatest twist endings. Later, he popped up in quirky roles, reality TV stints, and projects that leaned more offbeat than mainstream. Where Alec built a polished, long-standing career at the top of the industry, Stephen has embraced a more unpredictable path, dabbling in everything from indie films to outspoken personal ventures. The contrast between the two is what makes them fascinating. Alec is often seen as the serious, respected face of the Baldwin family, while Stephen is the wild card, the brother who keeps audiences guessing. And they're just part of the broader Baldwin clan. Daniel and William are also in the mix, making Baldwin practically its own Hollywood brand. Still, if you're keeping score, Alec may be the headline name, but Stephen is proof that even within one family, Hollywood careers can look wildly different and equally memorable. Charlie Sheen and Emilio Estevez. Here's a sibling connection that still surprises people. Charlie Sheen, the ultimate Hollywood bad boy, and Emilio Estevez, the quietly respected actor-director, are brothers. Well, technically half-brothers, but they grew up side by side, sons of legendary actor Martin Sheen. What makes them fascinating is how differently they handled the family name and Hollywood itself. Charlie Sheen, born Carlos Erwin Estevez, ditched the family surname and embraced the stage-ready Sheen. His career skyrocketed with roles in Platoon, Wall Street, and later the sitcom 2.5 Men, where his real-life antics blurred into his on-screen character. He was larger than life, always in the headlines, whether for his acting chops or his infamous personal scandals. Emilio Estevez, on the other hand, went the opposite route. He rejected the Hollywood pressure to adopt the Sheen name, choosing instead to keep Estevez as a badge of individuality. And it worked. Emilio built a career on his own terms, starring in classics like The Breakfast Club and The Mighty Ducks, before moving behind the camera as a writer and director. While Charlie was burning bright and fast, Emilio stayed out of the tabloid glare, steadily building a quieter, longer-lasting legacy. The Sheen-Estevez brothers are like two sides of a coin, one embodying Hollywood excess, the other resisting it. And together, they show just how differently siblings can navigate the same glittering, pressure-filled spotlight. From Hollywood wild child and rebel director, let's slide into a pair of brothers who turned comedy into a full-blown family business. Bill Murray and Brian Doyle Murray. When you hear the name Bill Murray, you probably picture the king of deadpan comedy. From Ghostbusters to Groundhog Day to Lost in Translation, he's become a cultural icon, part prankster, part philosopher, and always the guy who can make you laugh without even cracking a smile. But what many people don't realize is that his older brother, Brian Doyle Murray, has been right there in Hollywood all along, shaping comedy in his own way. Brian may not have Bill's household name recognition, but you've definitely seen him or at least heard him. He's one of those quintessential that guy actors, popping up in films like Caddyshack, which he co-wrote with Harold Ramis, and National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. His gravelly voice has also made him a go-to choice for voice roles, including multiple characters on SpongeBob SquarePants. What's fun about the Murray brothers is how often their paths have crossed. Brian shows up in Ghostbusters 2, Scrooged, and countless other Murray-led projects. It's almost like an Easter egg. If Bill's in a movie, chances are Brian is lurking somewhere nearby, adding texture and laughs. Together, they've created a comedic legacy that's both obvious and hidden. Bill may be the scene stealer, but Brian's fingerprints are all over the comedy world, proving that the Murrays didn't just give Hollywood one funny man, they gave it two: James Franco and Dave Franco. James Franco has always been Hollywood's wild card, actor, director, artist, and sometimes professional enigma. He first blew up with Freaks and Geeks, and then earned serious acclaim in films like 127 Hours. Known for his intensity and sometimes eccentric choices, James became the go-to guy for roles that teeter between brilliant and bizarre. Meanwhile, his younger brother Dave Franco slid into the spotlight with a completely different vibe. Where James is all brooding intensity, Dave is breezy, funny, and charming. Whether he's cracking jokes in 21 Jump Street, pulling off slick tricks in Now You See Me, or stealing scenes in Neighbors. Dave has managed to carve his own identity, never really living in James's shadow, but instead bringing a lighter touch to the family's Hollywood resume. The contrast between them is striking. James often feels like the tortured artist, while Dave is the one you'd want to hang out with at a party. Together, they show that even within one family, the Hollywood gene pool can create two totally different stars: Randy Quaid and Dennis Quaid. The Quaid brothers are another Hollywood duo people forget are related. Dennis Quaid is the one most audiences know best, the ruggedly handsome, dependable leading man from films like The Parent Trap, The Rookie, and Frequency. He's built a career on playing the guy with heart, the reliable everyman you root for. Randy Quaid, on the other hand, is the wild one. He's instantly recognizable from Independence Day, as the eccentric crop duster pilot, and National Lampoon's Vacation as Cousin Eddie, a role that became legendary in its own right. While Dennis went mainstream, Randy leaned into quirky, unpredictable characters that often stole the spotlight. But Randy's real-life antics eventually eclipsed his career, leading to some headline-grabbing controversies. That only makes the Quaid dynamic more fascinating. One brother stayed polished and steady, while the other spiraled into chaotic infamy. Together, they're proof that Hollywood siblings can end up on very different paths, even when they start from the same place. Ron Howard and Clint Howard. Ron Howard is one of Hollywood's golden boys, first a child star on The Andy Griffith Show, then Richie Cunningham on Happy Days, before becoming one of the most respected directors in the industry. He's the man behind Apollo 13, A Beautiful Mind, and The Da Vinci Code. Polished, steady, and universally admired, Ron is the kind of figure Hollywood looks up to. His brother Clint Howard, though? He's the ultimate, "Oh hey, it's that guy," character actor. Clint has appeared in literally hundreds of movies and TV shows, from Star Trek to The Waterboy. He's got a distinctive face and a knack for playing oddball roles, which has made him a cult favorite among fans who love spotting him in unexpected places. The brothers' careers are a study in contrasts. Ron became the award-winning director and Hollywood powerhouse, while Clint leaned into being the quirky scene stealer. And yet, there's real charm in how often Clint pops up in Ron's films. It's a family tradition at this point. Together, they show that Hollywood success doesn't always mean following the same path. Sometimes, one brother makes the prestige pictures, and the other makes them just a little more fun. If Hollywood can give us an Oscar-winning director and a lovable oddball in the same family, what other brotherly surprises are hiding in plain sight? Matt Dillon and Kevin Dillon. Matt Dillon was one of the original heartthrobs of the 80s. With brooding good looks and undeniable screen presence, he became the kind of actor teenage magazines plastered everywhere. From The Outsiders to Drugstore Cowboy, Matt built a career as a serious actor, balancing mainstream appeal with critical respect. Kevin Dillon, meanwhile, took a different path. Though he never hit the same A-list highs as his older brother, Kevin carved his niche in television, most famously as Johnny Drama Chase on HBO's Entourage. That role turned him into a cult favorite, perfectly blending insecurity, comedy, and charm. Fans of the show adored his ability to poke fun at the very idea of Hollywood fame, and it gave him a spotlight all his own. The fun part? On screen, Kevin often played the guy struggling for recognition, mirroring real life in a tongue-in-cheek way. Matt may have been the classic movie star, but Kevin got the last laugh as the underdog who won over audiences by leaning into it. Together, the Dillon brothers are a reminder that Hollywood success doesn't always look the same, it just has to stick. The Wayans brothers, Marlon, Sean, Damon, Keenan Ivory. If you thought one funny brother was enough, the Wayans family said, why stop there? This isn't just a sibling duo, it's a full-on comedy dynasty. Starting with Keenan Ivory Wayans, who created the groundbreaking sketch show In Living Color, the Wayans brothers burst onto the scene with sharp, fearless comedy that broke barriers in the 90s. Then came Damon, whose movie and TV roles, Major Payne, My Wife and Kids, cemented his star power. Sean and Marlon followed, becoming the ultimate comedic duo with films like White Chicks and the Scary Movie franchise. Collectively, the Wayans brothers redefined parody comedy for an entire generation. What makes them unique is how much they leaned on collaboration. Unlike other sibling pairs who went their own ways, the Wayans built a family brand. Whether writing, acting, or directing, they lifted each other up, turning their household into a factory of laughs. Hollywood has families, but few have dominated a genre the way the Wayans clan did. Luke Hemsworth. By now, everyone knows Chris Hemsworth, also known as Thor, and Liam Hemsworth, The Hunger Games. But the oldest Hemsworth brother, Luke, he's the one fans often overlook, despite being just as talented. Luke actually got his start in acting before Chris or Liam, working steadily in Australian television on shows like Neighbours. While his younger brothers were launching into global stardom, Luke quietly kept building his career at home. Eventually, he broke into Hollywood with a role on HBO's Westworld, where his grounded performance proved he could hold his own against a big ensemble cast. The irony is delicious. Luke is the eldest, but he's often referred to as the forgotten Hemsworth. Even Chris and Liam have joked about it in interviews. But truthfully, Luke's path has been the most relatable: working actor, steady gigs, and slow burn success. He may not wield a hammer or headline a blockbuster, but Luke Hemsworth is proof that Hollywood has room for all kinds of careers, even within one ridiculously photogenic family. What other surprises are hiding in Hollywood's family tree? Chris Evans and Scott Evans. Chris Evans might be Captain America to the world, but to Scott Evans, he's just an older brother who hogged the bathroom growing up. While Chris became the face of Marvel, leading billion-dollar blockbusters with his square jaw and all-American charm, Scott carved out a career in daytime TV. Soap fans will recognize him from One Life to Live, and he's also popped up in shows like Grace and Frankie. What makes their dynamic fun is how down-to-earth they are together. Chris has joked about Scott poking fun at his superhero status, while Scott has admitted he sometimes gets recognized as Cap's brother. Still, Scott's carved his own lane, with a loyal following that appreciates his warmth and humor. Together, they show that Hollywood success doesn't always mean the same kind of spotlight. Sometimes it's about steady work, not box office dominance. Sylvester Stallone and Frank Stallone. Everyone knows Sylvester Stallone. The grit, the gravelly voice, the sheer determination that turned Rocky and Rambo into cultural touchstones. But fewer people know that his brother, Frank Stallone, has been right there all along, making his own mark, this time in music. Frank is a singer, songwriter, and occasional actor, contributing tracks to Sylvester's films and carving out a respectable career in the music world. His song Far From Over, featured in Staying Alive, even scored him a Grammy nomination. While he never achieved the superstardom of his brother, Frank's career is a fascinating reminder that talent runs deep in the Stallone family. The contrast is striking. Sylvester built muscle-bound blockbusters, while Frank built melodies. Yet their paths often intertwined, proving that Hollywood isn't just about what's on screen, it's also about the soundtrack that pumps up the story. Tom Hanks and Jim Hanks. Tom Hanks is one of the most beloved actors alive. Two-time Oscar winner, America's favorite everyman, and the guy who can make you cry with a single line. But did you know his younger brother Jim has literally stood in for him? Jim Hanks is an actor and voice actor who's quietly doubled for Tom more times than you'd expect. In fact, if you've ever heard Woody in a Toy Story video game or spin-off and thought, wow, Tom Hanks sounds exactly the same, chances are it was Jim. He's also taken small acting roles in TV and film, but his career has largely thrived in voice work. It's one of Hollywood's best-kept secrets. When Tom can't make it, Jim steps in. The family resemblance is in looks, and the voice is uncanny. Together, they prove that sometimes sibling success isn't about competing, but about literally lending a hand or a voice to keep the family legacy going. So if brothers can share capes, soundtracks, and even voices, what happens when we reach Hollywood's biggest dynasties? Clint Eastwood and Kyle Eastwood. Clint Eastwood is Hollywood royalty, an actor, director, and icon whose squint alone could silence a room. For decades, Clint embodied the rugged cowboy, the tough cop, and the quietly menacing anti-hero. But behind the scenes, another Eastwood was slowly building a name in an entirely different art form. His son, Kyle. Kyle Eastwood didn't pick up a six-shooter like his dad. Instead, he picked up a bass guitar. From a young age, Kyle was drawn to music, specifically jazz, and he grew into a talented bassist and composer. While Clint was filming westerns and thrillers, Kyle was immersing himself in smoky clubs, shaping a sound that would eventually put him on the map in the international jazz scene. But here's the cool part. Father and son didn't stay in separate lanes. Kyle's music found its way into Clint's films, adding depth and atmosphere that dialogue and acting alone couldn't capture. Mystic River, $1 Million Baby, and Gran Torino all carried Kyle's fingerprints in their scores. It's a collaboration that proves artistic DNA doesn't always manifest the same way. It can show up as a glare on screen or as a haunting melody underneath it. Clint brought grit. Kyle brought soul. Together, they blurred the line between cinema and sound, making the Eastwood name resonate in more ways than one. Alexander, Bill, and Gustav Skarsgard. If Hollywood had a royal family imported straight from Scandinavia, it would be the Skarsgards. These brothers didn't just arrive in Hollywood, they stormed it, each carving out a completely different space in the industry. Alexander Skarsgard first became a household name as the smoldering vampire Eric Northman in True Blood. He followed that up with critically acclaimed work like Big Little Lies, which earned him an Emmy, and more recent powerhouse performances in Succession and The Northman. Alexander's vibe is charm meets intensity. Tall, magnetic, and capable of flipping between romantic lead and terrifying antagonist without breaking a sweat. Then there's Bill Skarsgard, who practically redefined horror when he took on the role of Pennywise in It. His unsettling smile and ability to shift his eyes in opposite directions made him an instant nightmare factory. But Bill isn't stuck in horror. He's dipped into thrillers, dramas, and action, proving he's got more range than a circus clown, albeit a very creepy one. And we can't forget Gustav Skarsgard, who dominated TV with Vikings. As Floki, he brought eccentric brilliance to a historical epic, and he later ventured into Westworld, proving his versatility. While Alexander plays intensity and Bill leans into eerie menace, Gustav thrives in eccentric, layered roles that make you question whether he's the hero, the villain, or something in between. Throw in their father, Stellan Skarsgård, a legend in his own right, and the Skarsgårds look less like a family and more like a dynasty. If acting is genetic, then Sweden definitely cracked the code. Ben and Casey Affleck. The Afflecks are one of Hollywood's most fascinating brotherly duos, not because they're identical in style, but because they're so different. Ben Affleck burst into stardom as a co-writer with Matt Damon of Good Will Hunting, which won them an Oscar. From there, Ben dove into blockbuster territory, Armageddon, Pearl Harbor, Batman v Superman, and directing triumphs like Argo. He became one of Hollywood's biggest names, balancing fame, politics, and personal struggles in a career that's been equal parts dazzling and messy. Casey Affleck, on the other hand, is quieter, almost allergic to fame. He's not interested in blockbuster spectacle. Instead, he chooses small, often heartbreaking roles in indie films. His Oscar-winning turn in Manchester by the Sea is a masterclass in subtlety, portraying grief and isolation with a rawness that left audiences shattered. The beauty of their dynamic is contrast. Ben is the Hollywood star, the kind you see on red carpets, directing studio projects, and trending in tabloids. Casey is the craftsman, choosing roles so intimate and unpolished they feel ripped from real life. Together, they show that success in Hollywood doesn't look just one way. Sometimes it's about the roar of a crowd, and sometimes it's about the quiet ache of a perfectly delivered line. Alec, Daniel, William, and Stephen Baldwin. Few sibling groups have ever captured Hollywood's collective imagination like the Baldwins. Mention the Baldwin brothers, and everyone instantly knows who you're talking about. It's practically pop culture shorthand. Alec Baldwin is the undisputed star of the family. From dramatic turns in films like Glengarry Glen Ross to comedic brilliance on 30 Rock, Alec has proven himself one of Hollywood's most versatile actors. He's also the most visible, whether it's through blockbuster roles, his iconic Donald Trump impression on SNL, or his headline-making personal life. But Alec isn't the whole story. William Baldwin made a name for himself in the 90s, starring in Backdraft, Sliver, and Flatliners. He may not have hit Alec's heights, but he became a familiar face in thrillers and dramas. Stephen Baldwin, meanwhile, leaned into cult status with films like The Usual Suspects and Biodome, later reinventing himself in reality TV and outspoken public life. Daniel Baldwin, often called the Forgotten Baldwin, carved out a career in TV crime dramas and indie films. What makes the Baldwins fascinating is their mix of talent and turbulence. They've had highs, lows, controversies, comebacks, and more drama than most Hollywood families combined. Yet their name endures. To this day, the Baldwin brothers conjures up an image of charisma, chaos, and a legacy that's as messy as it is unforgettable. Love them or roll your eyes at them, the Baldwins are proof that Hollywood doesn't just celebrate individuals, it sometimes crowns entire families. Why we miss these connections? Hollywood is built on smoke, mirrors, and spotlight. We see the names on posters, the stars on red carpets, and the blockbusters flashing across our screens, but rarely do we stop to peek at the family ties threading quietly underneath. Part of the reason is branding. Studios sell the myth of the individual star, not the family unit. Another is that some brothers live in totally different corners of the industry, one chasing blockbusters, the other thriving in TV, theater, or music. By the time we connect the dots, we're usually surprised. And honestly, that's part of the magic. Hollywood hides these brotherly links in plain sight, waiting for us to rediscover them with fresh wonder. Did you already know some duos in the list? And if you know more, drop them in the comments section, and for more videos like this, subscribe to the channel.